In the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, a far right government has decided to seize absolute power. So, this is what's happening in Hungary. Now, NPR is reporting that the nationalist government in Hungary passed a new law on Monday granting sweeping emergency powers to Prime Minister Viktor Orban. So, now those powers include giving Orban the power to rule by decree indefinitely. Now they say, oh, well, it's only because we're in a crisis right now. So we're just going to allow you to suspend parliament and rule by decree. So whatever you need to do it so that you can combat the coronavirus. Oh boy. Oh boy. So again, suspension of parliament, right? So, no more lawmakers, no more elections right now, and just Orban in charge. Now, another emergency part of this powers package, strange, clunky way to say it, but these emergency powers package has some stiff penalties for sharing fake news. Oh boy. And you're going to allow the government, by the way, this far right government, to declare what is fake news. So already freedom of the press, bye bye, right? So now, spreading fake news and rumors would be punishable by up to 5 years in prison. And leaving quarantine would be punishable by up to 8 years in prison. So if Orban decides, I'm going to quarantine you, maybe because of COVID-19, maybe because of your political enemy, and you leave that quarantine, well, 8 years in prison. Go right to jail. Wow. Wow. Deeply, deeply disturbing. So now, don't worry though, folks. Orban says, oh, when this emergency ends, we will give back all the powers without exception. Mm, mm, mm. Really? Where have we heard that one before? When has any government given up their emergency powers? When has any dictator given up emergency power? And I know Hungarian people, he is a populist, I believe. At least from what I've read in NPR, he is somewhat popular among the Hungarian people. But that's what they do, far right populists. They will use that populism in order to enact terrible things and amass power. One of the things Orban has done, and one of the reasons that he actually gained a lot of prominence, is because he would push back against the EU when it comes to accepting asylum seekers. And so, again, that racism is how a lot of these right wingers get into power. And then, of course, they exploit a tragedy or a pandemic in this case in order to solidify that power. And so that's what we have, right? And I am worried that other governments will use that as a blueprint. Oh, look, we've got an emergency with the coronavirus. I guess it's time to take control. Now, luckily for us, I think Donald Trump's too stupid to do that. He's an idiot. He's not a functional fascist, although he has fascist tendencies. And again, it's all cemented with his ego. It all goes along with his ego. Donald Trump is best, right? But he wants to be popular. And weirdly enough, he's trying to be popular, but he's not a good populist. He's actually kind of terrible at it. But like Orban, he feeds on a lot of this fear, right? A lot of fear of immigrants and asylum seekers and all that stuff in order to grab power. But again, I think Trump's too stupid to grab power. Not in this way. He would probably attempt it in some sort of terrible ham-handed way. But anyway, now, look, even though I talk about Trump, we have given away some of our freedoms. NDAA, Patriot Act, the fact that the government can spy on us, the fact that the president can have a kill list when it comes to drone strikes. And we've used that. We've exercised that. And so that is dangerous as well. I hope Donald Trump doesn't find that out, that we can do all that stuff. But I don't want to give anybody ideas, but this is the time This is the kind of situation that a lot of these far right autocrats uh, will exploit in order to get more power. And so, unfortunately, this is a situation too where people are afraid and they're more than happy to give an authoritarian power, as we've seen in Hungary. I mean, look, we've got people that are afraid. They crave normalcy, they crave security, and that allows people to get into power and do these kinds of terrible power grabs. So now, interestingly enough, one thing that Orban is not doing is funding healthcare. Remember, we're in the middle of a health crisis, right? And his whole justification for taking over the government with emergency powers is so that he can fight the coronavirus, right? And so far, he has made sure to defund healthcare. That's at least according to Gabor Giori, a political analyst with Policy Solutions, which is a left-leaning think tank. He said, quote, "The irony is that the government is giving itself extreme powers, but it's not taking any extreme measures when it comes to combating the coronavirus." So here's what I see happening, right? So you're going to see an increase in keeping measures that will keep other people out. Now, look, we're in the middle of a crisis. I can understand why some of these countries will, you know, reduce immigration, lock down their borders, and lock down international travel. That actually kind of makes sense, right? So understand that. But also understand that these far right ideologues, they're going to accompany that not, or they're going to couch that not in, public safety concerns. Like, yes, we're going to limit travel or eliminate travel for the meantime to prevent the spread of COVID-19, right? Instead, what they're going to say is, in this case, and we've already seen it in America, China virus, that's why we need to hate China and Chinese people specifically, because they're giving us China virus. No, no, that's racism. That is bigotry, right? The fact that a virus originated in China doesn't give you an excuse to hate both China. Now, you can be critical of the Chinese government's response on this, and I think that's fair. But you shouldn't be hating Chinese people and discriminating against Chinese people and basically, encouraging people to ostracize and attack Chinese people for this. And so understand, like, those are the rules, right? And if you're attacking Chinese people and discriminating and being racist during this time, you're not a good person. But understand that's who these far right people are. They will look at the origin of a virus and immediately blame the people and the nationality and the race for it, and use it to enact xenophobic policy. And that's what we've seen with Donald Trump, and that's what we're probably going to see with Viktor Orban, because that is part and parcel his right wing, his basically claim to power, since, of course, he came to power because he was attacking asylum seekers as dirty and diseased. And he's just going to point to them and say, see, I was right. I was right. We've got corona. Well, in reality, of course, hospitals, because of the actions of people like Orban and the far right, are starved of revenue. In fact, this is according to Sofia Kolonyi, a health expert at the Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest, said that hospitals were without basic sanitation like toilet paper and soap, as well as having severe staff shortages. She said, quote, "It's not that there are not enough nurses and doctors, but also we're spending less and less on healthcare. That's something that's got to change, especially now." And their healthcare system has also been described by NPR as ill-prepared to handle the testing that is required because they lack people to administer those tests, who left after repeated restructuring in the past 15 years had bled it dry. This is according to a report by investigative reporting outlet Direct 36. So understand that they're actually not doing what they're supposed to be doing to combat coronavirus. It is a clear power grab. They're not going to relinquish this power after after they deal with coronavirus. And they're going to blame asylum seekers, immigrants, and use them to scapegoat like government inaction on this crisis. It is the dictator playbook 101, and they are playing it to a T. So understand that this is incredibly scary. This is dangerous. And the question is, what's the EU going to do about it? I don't have any idea, but we should all be watching this situation unfold in Hungary because it could be the end of democracy in that country and might even have a terrible domino effect to continue. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.